Well, hello there, time travelers, and welcome, new time travelers. As always, if you're new to this channel and enjoy learning about history, one event at a time, then don't forget to hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. Without further ado, let's get into it. Today, we're going to start out in 1656 when English astronomer and mathematician Edmund Halley, who was the first to calculate the orbit of Halley's Comet, was born in Greenwich, Kent, England. In 1837, one of the first institutions of higher education for women in the United States of Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, which is now Mount Holyoke College, opened in Massachusetts. 1884 is when Swiss psychiatrist Hermann Rorschach, who devised the inkblot test that bears his name and that was widely used clinically for diagnosing psychopathy, was born. In 1900, Mitchell, author of Gone with the Wind, was born in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, 23 years later, in 1923, Adolf Hitler and Erich Landolf attempted to start an insurrection in Germany against the Weimar Republic, but the Beer Hall Putsch, as it became known, was suppressed by the following day. 9 years later, in 1932, during the Great Depression, Democratic Franklin D. Roosevelt easily defeated incompetent Republican Herbert Hoover to win the presidency of the United States. 7 years later, in 1939, the Century Exhibition is opened in Wellington, New Zealand. In 1956, comet Arnhem-Rowland was discovered. It was remarkable for its anomalous second tail, which projected towards rather than away from the sun. 4 years later, in 1960, Democratic politician John F. Kennedy was narrowly elected President of the United States. 2 years later, in 1962, the epic film Mutiny on the Bounty, which recounts the 1789 mutiny on the HMS Bounty, was released in American theaters. It was perhaps best known for its production difficulties, many of which centered on star Marilyn Brando. 4 years later, in 1966, U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson signed a tax bill that included a rider allowing the National Football League to merge with the American Football League, thus preventing legal challenges involving antitrust issues. On this day in 1972, the American cable television company HBO officially debuted as it aired the 1971 film Sometimes a Great Notion, which starred Paul Newman. 1978 brought us American illustrator Norman Rockwell, best known for his covers of the Saturday Evening Post, died. 1994 is when in the U.S. midterm elections, the Republicans won control of the House of Representatives and the Senate for the first time in 40 years. The sweeping victory was partly because of President Bill Clinton's low popularity at the time. On this day in 2013, the Philippines endured what many considered its worst natural disaster when the country was struck by Super Typhoon Haiyan, one of the most powerful cyclones ever recorded to strike land. 3 years later, in 2016, despite trailing in most polls, Republican Donald Trump was elected the 45th President of the United States, though his Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by more than 2.8 million. And our final event happened in 2020 when Canadian-born American television personality Alex Trebek, who was best known as the host from 1984 to 2020 of the TV game show Jeopardy, died at the age of 80. And with that, we will return to 2024 and our current history. Now let's head over to the animal kingdom for our 87th animal fact, where yaks are specifically adapted to high altitude with huge lung capacity and small red blood cells. Native originally to Tibet, these giant oxen-like animals live at high altitudes in the Himalayas, which is 4,000 to 6,000 meters. They are specifically adapted to the low oxygen levels with lung capacity that is 3 times that of normal cattle and have smaller red blood cells to improve oxygen transport. And with that, we will move on to the science lab for our 87th science fact, where glass sponges can live for 15,000 years. This makes them one of the longest living organisms on Earth. The immortal jellyfish, however, could theoretically live forever, but scientists aren't sure. And as always, if you enjoy learning about history, one event at a time, then don't forget to hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and turn on all notifications. I'll see you all in the next one.